Page for Monday, April 10th, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra says the Biden administration is considering ignoring an order by a federal judge in Texas blocking the government's approval of the abortion pill mifepristone. Ramsey Touchberry reports Becerra said everything is on the table, including a court order violation. U.S. District Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk ruled last week the Food and Drug Administration's approval process of the drug 2 decades ago was unlawful and that access must be temporarily halted. In a competing and contradictory ruling on the same day, a federal judge in Washington state protected the medication. The ruling spells trouble for Republicans, who are rushing back to the drawing board after underestimating how the Supreme Court's decision overturning Roe v. Wade would benefit Democrats on Election Day. Buoyed by the ruling, Seth MacLachlan reports Democrats flipped seats and won full control of legislative chambers in Michigan, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania last November, while maintaining state houses that they already controlled. Add to that the latest win, liberal Judge Janet Protasewicz's 11-point drubbing of conservative Daniel Kelly in the Wisconsin State Supreme Court election last week. Republicans are sorting through the setbacks and working to strike a balance between catering to pro-lifers without alienating other voters. That's proving to be a hard sell with voters who for more than 50 years were accustomed to having abortion as a constitutional right. The rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran has brought renewed hope that a lasting peace deal may be on the horizon in Yemen. In a sign that the Saudi-Iranian thaw has opened negotiating space, Ben Wolfgang reports a Saudi delegation headed by the kingdom's ambassador traveled to the Yemeni capital of Sana'a for talks Sunday. Officials on both sides said the Iranian-Saudi accords could be key to a breakthrough, where nearly a decade of civil war has fueled one of the worst humanitarian crises on the planet. Biden administration officials specifically want Iran to stop delivering arms and other aid to the Houthi rebels who have been battling the Yemeni government since 2014. Hundreds of thousands have died on both sides, and the United Nations says millions of Yemenis still face food shortages and a lack of basic services and sanitation. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find the entire lineup of Washington Times podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. The National Institutes of Health says it has cut off all funding for work in Russian labs as it seeks to comply with President Biden's executive orders. NIH currently does not fund any research in Russia, the organization's Office of Extramural Research said in a statement to our Stephen Dinan. Biden ordered a halt to U.S. money for Russian research in the wake of Russian President Vladimir Putin's decision last year to invade Ukraine. The White Coat Waste Project, which opposes federally funded animal testing, said millions of NIH dollars have flowed to Russia over the past decade. Speaking of Russia, a recent defector says Russian President Vladimir Putin gets his information from intelligence reports and doesn't use a handheld device from communications. Bill Gertz reports Gleb Karakulov told a Russian dissident group that he left Putin's secret service because of his opposition to the war in Ukraine. Karakulov worked until mid-October as a captain in the Presidential Communications Directorate of the Russian Guard Service. His work involved setting up and encrypting communications used by Putin and Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin. And finally, Jeff Murdoch talks with Juanita Broaddrick, who compared and contrasted her situation with that of adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Broaddrick accused Bill Clinton of raping her in 1978. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.